Perfect. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Happy Friday. I hope you guys have had a really good Ignite. I know it's been a long week, so I'm excited to get to wrap it up with you all. My name is Zoe. I'm a technical advisor at Microsoft. But today, what I'm actually just really thrilled about talking with you all about is how we're building Microsoft 365 as a unified platform for your frontline workers. We are really excited about this workforce. I know a lot of you have probably spent the rest of Ignite talking about your office workers, but today we want to take a special moment to really drill into actually a really important aspect of your workforce that we're building for. So I think I can probably confidently say that if you're here on Friday after the Navy port and hopefully some fun at Ignite, you actually already know how vital frontline workers are for you. So I'm not going to drill that into you all, but just to give us all perspective, it's actually 80% of the entire workforce globally. That's a huge number, and that actually makes it pretty unwieldy in terms of all the challenges that they have and all the different elements that you have to manage. But I do want to take a moment to talk about some of the ongoing challenges that they still face today, right? We know that they continue to still hit on personal risks. Like in retail, the increase in thefts has been huge. Or just general economic uncertainty, like supply chain disruption. And if that wasn't all of the challenges they face, I could walk off the stage and say they're great, but there's more that we want to talk to you about today. They still continue to feel disconnected from the larger mission of your organization. They feel very transitory. Sometimes they don't feel like people care deeply about them. Some organizations make that happen. They make them their brand ambassadors. They make them their operations lead. But many feel disconnected from the larger mission. The other aspect that they have to deal with is so many different systems. I mean, I think we all do, but frontline workers especially have to juggle between different systems, different devices to access those systems, even just going between a system and a manual process like a checklist. It gets hard, and it ends up taking more of their time and mental energy than actually performing the task or the customer service at hand. And then finally, many of you are amazing IT folks behind the scenes of it all, or your BDMs. But because of this motion, because of the number of systems, and frankly, the size of the frontline workforce, we know they're so complicated to manage deeply. And we know that they have many different device types that really make it hard for you to ensure that they're securing the right information without losing access to components. And so Navjot is going to talk to you a little bit about that later on. So my last sad fact, and then I quickly will move to happy things, I promise, is we know that based on all this stuff happening on the front line, we know that your frontline workers are burned out. They're tired. They've been burned out since COVID. They're like, my gosh, when will things get easy again? And I think you all probably feel that too if you're supporting them. But they continue to tell us that they're burned out and they're getting disengaged from the work. And this tends to have cascading effects on your customer service, on your operations, on your bottom line. I'm sure we all have experienced walking into a store or dealing with a worker that is so unhappy that you feel it emanating from themselves. And so this burnout is actually really important because your frontline workers are at the front line of all your business operations. And so if they're not feeling their best, you can believe that your customers or your operations could be suffering because of it. I think, no surprise to you all, we actually believe AI is a huge turning point for your frontline. I'm sure you hear a lot that we talk about AI is around personal productivity and business process. Your frontline workers are often that tip of the spear for your business process. And while we know that AI, and everyone's talking about how AI is coming to knowledge workers, and there's this huge growth on their side, we actually also know that frontline workers are so excited for AI to actually come to them too. They believe it will help them in some of the most crucial aspects of their life. And so when I talk to some of you, you'll mention like, oh, is there fear in the system for frontline workers, like what we hear with knowledge workers? We don't hear the fear. We hear the excitement. Because we know that frontline workers, they know there's a human aspect of their job that's important. But they're often buried by so much different things in order to get their job done. And they see AI as a big place to alleviate that. So we personally think it's a golden opportunity. We think it's a golden opportunity for you as IT admins to lead the charge, to partner with your business leads, to really use AI to change the way that frontline workers are doing their job. And we actually believe this will lead to a competitive differentiation. Because the more that your workers can spend less time finding information or doing a simple task, the more time they can spend with your customer or with that critical operational aspect. So we believe that if you don't empower your frontline workers with technology, including AI, and you leave them behind, your business process will be left behind. And that's a huge issue, we think. And Microsoft, we want to build to help you with that. We don't want you guys to feel like you're doing it alone. We want to build in the processes that we know your frontline workers care about and really need help with. So I just want to start by talking about 3 ways we're thinking about building for Frontline. The first is around simplicity, right? Your frontline workers, they don't have time to spend a long time looking at an app and figuring out where to click and where. The constant onboarding and offboarding means this is even more important. We want to build tools that are simple, that are intuitive from the very beginning, similar to consumer apps, right? You pick up a consumer app, you kind of know what you're doing, or you probably delete it and you never touch it again. We want to build with that same mentality. How do we make it simple for you and for your workers? The second is that smart aspect that I was talking about, right? We want to build within the processes that they already know and they need to get done. How do we make it smarter so we can actually alleviate the frontline workers' job to focus on those human value touchpoints? And then finally, we really want to make it secure. No matter what device they're using, no matter what type of worker, we want to make sure that you all feel like the access and the information is secure, it's compliant, whether it's with unions, whether it's with customer or patient information. We would just want to take that off your plate and ensure that we're actually providing technology that lets you do innovation without adding any worry to your plate. So I'm going to start with simple, because I think that's the place we need to start, right? Otherwise, I'll go straight into complicated, and you'll be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I want to start and talk about how we believe, hearing from you all, that there's really a need to move all this information, whether it's shift information for a worker, whether it's comms coming from a manager or corporate headquarters, or whether it's even just a task. We want to make all of that simple by allowing it to have one simple platform for your workers to use. And so I'm going to give an example of a day in the life. And I'll show you as we walk through this entire platform of what we're building and how it can start to begin to alleviate those concerns. For us, that all-in-one experience is Microsoft Teams and our new home experience. Now, when I probably say Teams, you probably start to think about your teams that you experience every day, full of meetings, a lot of channels, a lot of chats. But I want to tell you guys, we're building Teams specific for frontline workers, because we know that they don't work the way we work. They don't sit in a meeting every day. They don't sit in many meetings if you're like me. They're actually wanting to be on their device quickly, put it in their back pocket, and move on to the task, to the customer at hand. And so I'm going to show you how we're rethinking Teams in order to actually fit your frontline workers' life rather than us just giving them an office worker solution. Like I said, I'll do it from the day in the life. This is Mona. She is a store associate at a grocery store. And you can imagine that her day starts by just trying to figure out what information she needs to know that day, right? She really just needs to get caught up. Today, she might go into a back room, have to look at a bulletin or two. She might have to go to a manager and get a debrief. Maybe there's a team meeting around it where they're discussing all the changes that are happening. It puts a lot of pressure to know where the right information is, how to get to it, and also your management feels it as well. So I'm going to show you how we're thinking about making that even more streamlined. We've taken all of that information and we've put it together into one experience. So what you can see here is when Mona opens up Teams on her phone, she has a home experience. She can see announcements, her shifts for the day, and tasks assigned, all within one experience. She can also access resources, so things like benefits, training, all the things that maybe she might need to do at the very beginning or even at the end of her shift, all in that one experience connected to also the third-party systems that you care about, like you'll see Workday up there. Because what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're providing a platform where people can access the information they need, whether it's Microsoft info or not, and really give a streamlined experience. But we'll say that Mona wants to clock in for the day. Not only is it about surfacing information in a simple experience, it's also about taking action. And within that same home experience, she can also clock in. And this can be backed by your time and attendance system, so that you're able to actually tie it back to the larger workforce management system that your organization uses, or if you guys just use Excel, it can also be harnessed based on that. So wherever you are in your digital experience, whether you've deployed a workforce management system, whether you've deployed many across many of the locations, or just Excel, you can connect that and simplify it for the end user and also for yourselves. Now that she's clocked in, she actually wants to go take a look at one of those operational announcements that I talked about, right? In a store experience, a lot of that tends to be changes in displays. I think we all know kind of once pretty much Halloween is done, everything becomes Christmas, am I right? It's getting a little too early, if I'm honest. I love Christmas, but it's a little early. But she knows that there's displays that are constantly changing to make it more holiday. So she can actually click in and see all that information. She can scroll down, she can ask questions, she can see comments, all of that within one experience. And you can pin this specifically to different regions. So maybe here in Chicago, it's a different display. It's at a different time than maybe in Seattle or New York. So this can be optimized across different locations to ensure that they're getting the right operational information at the right time. And again, all within that one experience. So we're reducing the amount of places that they need to go to just find what they need to do from the very beginning. Now, I also want to talk about just regular old communications. As you all know, Teams can be a complicated thing. I think there was a moment where everyone wanted to create a channel for everything, you know? But what we are doing now, starting in early next year, is we are going to create the ability for you to combine those chats and channels into one simple collaboration experience. That way, you can not only adjust so that your frontline workers only have the specific comms that they need, but it can be in that single pane of glass. So let's take an example. So now you can see that I actually got a message, or Mona got a message, from her manager talking about a task that she needs to complete. And she can easily respond back in that. And that way, she's staying in that same pane of glass and knows exactly what's needed from her. Especially useful is if it's across a large location, right? We know sometimes there's a lot of screaming across the warehouse to find the right person to do something. Or you have to walk a mile, it feels like, to find the person or across all the aisles. How can we start to cut out some of those long communication issues that people have today with simple communications that they're used to because they also have consumer apps? I'm also excited to kind of share the evolution of this. You know, as I talked about before, frontline workers, they feel disconnected from a lot of the corporate communications, you know? Whether it's this one, which is hey, we're doing something about sustainability. We want everyone to know because we care about this, and we want you to also care and you to feel connected. And so what we're doing is we're bringing two things into Teams. We're bringing storylines, which allows you to connect into the culture of the org. You can see direct communications coming from people like the CIO, also, whoever, all the C-suite. But we're also bringing communities to Teams. And communities will allow your frontline workers to create or join groups aligned on their functions or their interests, and really bring people together to create a network to find answers and share best practices. So you can imagine that the manager, Miguel, he can now share best practices of onboarding a new employee in there, and everyone can kind of learn together. And so for us, it's again, how are we bringing all those experiences into one platform? And how are we evolving it so it feels even more like the social media apps that they know and love and they probably use today to communicate with each other? So how do we simplify that? And that is coming early next year, which is super exciting. Yeah, woo! It's exciting. Ah, I like a little clap. That's nice. Yeah. Well, so I've talked about simple and how we're simplifying it. Now I want to talk about how we're making it smarter, how we're thinking about taking this all to the next level. When we talked to frontline workers, this actually came from a study with all these frontline workers. We said, what do you want AI to do for you? What do you want? The #1 thing they said is, help me find information. If there's one thing that you guys walk away with today, it's your frontline workers have an overload of information thrown at them all the time. And they want help. And they actually see AI as a huge potential to help them overcome that. And so I'm excited to announce that we are now having a single click-to-create agent from SharePoint. We know a lot of your files are in SharePoint. A lot of our files are in SharePoint. And what we want to do is we want to unlock all of that value in a very simple way. So now your workers don't have to go searching through all the SharePoint sites and files to find an answer. They don't have to go beg their manager or maybe a more veteran worker on the staff to find information. They now have an expert team member on it. So I want to show you how easy it is to create this and also use it. So I'm going to show it live. So this is their teams, right? And look at all the files that they may have. In this example, I'm going to take a bank teller, right? They have a lot of policies around a bank teller. I'm sure you all have experienced that in your own world. On the other side, having to know specific answers to very complicated questions that if they get it wrong, there are effects on both the customer and the process. So right now, your frontline worker would have to dig through that. They'd have to click on some of these, figuring out where the right information is. And that takes a lot of time, and it's frankly a very frustrating experience. I think we all can feel that in our own lives. So what if we create an agent instead? And it really is one click. And what you can see, oh, actually, sorry. Let me try that again. I didn't select the files I wanted. I want all these files. I want all these files for my agent to know. Now, I could select only a few of these, or I could select many folders. But in this case, I just want these ones around power of attorney. And now I'll create my agent. And now you can see my agent is pulling from all those resources right in there. And I can edit it. I can make adjustments. I can change the name. It pulled the logo from the SharePoint site, but I can change that. I can change the sources, so you see all of those Word docs. I can add more. I can delete. I can even customize it with Copilot Studio, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But if I want to go beyond just my SharePoint files to include third-party data, to include larger Microsoft resources, I can easily extend it. I can even add actions, triggers, all the things that you're learning about from Copilot Studio. But in this case, I want something simple. And then finally, I can also change the behavior. I can change the welcome message. I can even change any of the prompts. I'm going to change this, because sometimes I don't know what power of attorney is. You know, basic questions, and you can change that. And what you'll see on the side is that it's reflected now immediately. And I can save that. Now, I have an agent who can answer all the questions for me. But I don't sit in my SharePoint site asking questions. I mean, you can, but I don't personally. I want it in Teams. And so what you can do is you can easily copy it over. So I'm going to go into my teller group chat. And just like I would share a file or share a message, I can add my agent to the chat. And what it's doing now is it's giving this agent the ability for anyone in that group chat to ask a question to it. Just like you would if you said, I don't know what power of attorney policies are specific to Seattle or Washington State. You can say, normally, you'd go and ask an expert on the team, maybe in Teams, maybe in person. Now you have the expert. And you can see they already give some starting prompts, like the one that we customized. But also, I can ask specific ones that I want. Oops. It wanted me to do it again. I want to ask, and unfortunately you guys have to see me type, what is the proper execution for a power of attorney? And I can ask right in that chat. And you'll see the agent is responding, probably faster than an expert would if they're busy at work and they're wanting to go through. But what I'm also going to show to you today is around governance. So what the agent is doing right now is it's going through all those files I just shared for it. It's checking for the right answer, and it's checking for access. Oh, he didn't like that one. We're going to try again. Oh, no, I was just speedy. What it did is it said, wait, hold up. I just found the answers, but not everyone has access to this file. Now, if you gave access to everyone, yeah, it's great. Because if I'm a manager, and maybe I have access to something, but my workers don't, and I think I want to create an agent, and I want my team to have it, well, now it will actually check for you. So as Amber, I can actually view the response. And I can see the answer immediately. This is what they were going to send. So they already knew the answer. But what they also did is they said, wait, the people in the chat, they don't have access to these. Do you want to give them access? And I say, yeah, I do. I do want to give them access. I can say, no, I don't send, and I can go back and I can check the sensitivity label. I can check who has access. But in this case, I want to do it. And now you can see the responses in the chat. And it even sources the exact file that it pulled the information from. So you know if you need to learn more or it's not quite right, I can go and click in on that. And it changes how fast people can respond. Now imagine if that wasn't there. I'd have to click into all those files, probably Control F, try to find what I'm looking for. And now instead I get this response. And what's great is from an end user point of view, if it's able to answer partially, it will give you as much information as you have access to in response, and will say, hey, there's still a little more. We're waiting on a response from your manager to give you full access, right? So it gives the user as much as it can, but will never go beyond what you've already marked for access or sensitivity labeling. And this is a huge component of how you just focus on data governance, and our agents and Copilot will actually use that to make sure that we are not doing oversharing and any sort of content sprawl. So I love this agent. I've used it, even at Ignite. You better believe I've made several agents for Ignite to help answer questions. And I love it, and I highly recommend it. It's available now, and it's super easy. Well, we saw it in action. I do want to show, though, another customer who's using this, right? You can believe me and believe how much I use it, but I want to ground it in like a real customer example. And so 𝗦𝗲 is actually a British infrastructure engineering company, and they actually created SharePoint agents around safety and health policies for their frontline workers. So take a look.
𝗦𝗲𝗀 are a UK-based organisation. We operate in safety critical industry. We design, maintain, operate and build assets for the UK infrastructure. We must touch probably 75% of everybody's life in the UK every day.
Access to safety information is critical to us, especially in the front line. Making sure that our people go home safely every day is our top priority.
We are data rich as an organisation.
Accessing that information in a timely manner is difficult.
Historically, that would have been a case of somebody stopping the work that they were doing, finding the folder that sits under the seat in their truck, looking through that folder, finding the right section, looking through the section, finding the right line.
A lot of our frontline staff don't have access to a laptop, don't have access to a computer, but they do have access to a phone. So now they're able to have an agent sitting in their pocket accessing our safety information. They can access the information that they want, where they want it, how they want it, to be safer and more efficient where they're working. How amazing is it to be able to give our frontline workers the information they're looking for at the click of a button?
Having all of that information digitized and available to you in a device where you can ask a question completely takes that challenge away.
It's completely transformative for them to be able to have a chat with that data to find the answer that they need. And not only that, they're able to do it in any language, even though the underlying documentation still remains in English.
Technology can be in all the places that our supervisors often can't. That means that they can troubleshoot some of the issues right there and then, and it can allow them to work safer or more efficiently.
And ultimately, we can get people home safe and well every single day of the week.
100% agents in SharePoint is making my job safer.
Now, the last thing that I want to leave with is that's how you start simple, right? Which I actually think is a great first step when you're thinking about how do I just start with some of the bigger challenges on Frontline and how do I evolve from there? So I showed you earlier, right? You can create an agent within SharePoint and I can either send it out based on just my SharePoint files or I can customize it with Copilot Studio. You can also start from Copilot Studio if you already know that you want to go beyond SharePoint files from the beginning. But we want to give you either options for you to scale up into the needs that you actually care about. And so these are just a few of my favorite things that we're connected to from a Copilot Studio point of view. I really want to point out Workday, right? We have great connections with Workday that allow you to build and pull that information in. And this also goes beyond. We can go with the graph. We can go with Dataverse. We can go with web. You can really adjust it based on what you need for your business needs. And I'm excited to share that we're also adding more, and you'll see more and more of this as we go forward throughout the year. But in public preview, we will also be able to add Salesforce, ServiceNow, and Zendesk, and pull that information into that simple agent for your frontline workers to use, as well as Microsoft resources like Fabric, Azure AI Search, and all these great tools at your disposal to really make sure that it's just tied to what you need and nothing more, right? It's all about scoping it to your need. And when I talk to customers, it's often about starting with what do we need, and then you go and you think, okay, how do we build for that? And that is the same thing that 𝗦𝗲 just did, right? Where they started with, we need to focus on health and safety. For health and safety, it's all in SharePoint. We're going to start there, and we're going to move from there. But we just want to make sure that we have the right tools for the simple side and for the complex. So that way, we can scale up with you depending on your needs. The last thing that I'm going to say is actually super exciting. I'm excited about it. We're not just thinking about how to add knowledge to Copilot Studio. We want to add more capabilities. And for me, for frontline workers, that main capability is voice. We know a lot of your frontline workers need to use both hands to do their job, either because they're actually doing it with their hands, they have gloves. There's many reasons we believe that actually multimodality of AI will really change the way that your frontline workers interact. And so what we're excited to share is that now frontline workers can simply call an agent to get help on different elements. And we're actually going to be expanding our voice capabilities throughout this year. So definitely keep looking for them, because there's going to be some exciting stuff. And that will be able to be something that you can scale up. So again, you can start simple, and you can evolve it with things like voice capabilities and autonomous triggers. But I want to hand it off to one of the product leads behind it all, Navjot, to walk you through some of the rest of the great announcements we have.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Zoe. And good morning, everyone. Wasn't that an impressive piece at 𝗦𝗲, how they were using AI to empower their frontline workers? I would say one of the common threads that you will see throughout the presentation is how do you take all the complexity that you have invested in already with all the systems and third-party software and bring it in a simple way for your frontline workers to empower them to do their job well, right? So let's start by imagining a frontline worker navigating through their busy day. Their success and your organization's success hinges on one critical factor, operational efficiency. Be it schedule management, task management, or supporting your customers. Seamless operations is the foundation to frontline productivity. So let's go back to Mona, who was working at Woodgrove Store Associates, Zoe had talked about earlier. She starts her day with looking at Teams Home. Here, she can review all the tasks that are due that day. She clicks on the tasks card. It looks like there's plenty to do in that particular store for Woodgrove Associates. She starts by restocking the aisles. If you remember, this was one of the messages that her manager had talked to her about. Now, restocking is something that she does on a day-to-day basis. She's able to do that job quickly. She goes back, marks the task complete in the system. How about one of the more complex tasks? Let's look at the one with the refrigerator failure alert. Okay. So in this case, this is one of the tasks that she hasn't been able she hasn't done frequently before. It requires a lot more guidance. In this case, she clicks on the task to review a little bit more detail. With app-powered tasks, which is in public preview now, you can customize the experience to match the specific needs of the task. For example, you can display workflow-specific fields or provide step-by-step instructions for a guided start-to-finish experience. In this case, Woodgrove has connected the task to a custom app, Fridge Alert, which helps monitor and address in-store alerts. Again, this is one of those 3P softwares or systems that you may have built for automating alert systems. She clicks on a start task, and this is where app-powered task magic kicks in. This information is coming from your third-party system. It gives them a step-by-step guidance where she's guided to exactly which fridge needs attention. She gets detailed instructions on how to take the temperature and feeds in the temperature into the app, which gives her customized information. Given the temperature, she needs to move the food to safety, and she has a certain amount of time to do that. As she finishes that work, she is able to immediately see her impact on the bottom line of the store. Right? And because she's completed all the task is marked complete automatically, which keeps her teammates and managers informed of the remaining tasks to be done. Right? After a productive day at work, let's say Mona wants to clock out. So she goes to the shifts card and clocks out. Here, she's alerted that her next shift is on the 21st. She just remembered that she actually has a wedding to attend that day, and she had forgotten to inform her manager about that day. Thanks to Teams, she's now able to self-serve her schedule by herself. So she goes to manage shift, and next time she'll remember to set her availability on time. In this case, she can swap shifts, but because she's not available that day, she chooses to offer the shift to coworkers. Because she really wants one of her coworkers to pick up the shift, she really needs to attend that wedding, it's a best friend, she offers it to everyone on the team. Hopefully one of them responds soon. Now, because she is giving up a shift, she still wants to make sure she gets the pay for that pay period, so she wants to sign up for another shift. Again, she goes back to the home experience, clicks on the shift card, where she gets a detail on all of her schedules. She can, on a normal time, she can do multiple things like looking at her own schedule or her teammates' schedules. But in this case, she is interested in signing up for an open shift. So she clicks on the open shifts, which shows up all the available shifts in her primary work location. Unfortunately, none of these match her schedule. But she can look at other locations where all the locations nearby her locations are also listed. Bellevue store is the closest. She clicks on that. And sure enough, there's one of these shifts that matches her schedule. She clicks on it to confirm additional details, like who's the manager on duty that day, what are some of the shift notes. It meets her needs. She press request and kicks off the manager approval process. So she ends her day confident that she's able to still get the total pay amount that she's expecting. While we keep our fingers crossed for Mona, let's see where the scheduling data comes from. Now, if you're using a pen and paper process today or Excel process today, you can digitize this process by simply using the core capabilities of the Shifts app, which gives you basic schedule management capabilities. But for those of you who may be using a more advanced workforce management system, we provide several out-of-the-box connections with popular platforms such as UKG, Blue Yonder, and Reflexes. However, if you have your own homegrown system, or if you're using a system that is not one of these three popular ones, then starting now, you can explore our advanced graph APIs to connect any workforce management for a two-way sync with scheduling, with teams and shifts. So there's so much more we can explore in operational efficiency, but let's move on to another critical aspect of our product, which is security. Now, of course, security is essential, not only for your corporate workforce, but also for your frontline. We spent decades developing robust solutions to help IT both efficiently and effectively manage and scale your frontline security needs. And we know that this, you've already started this process, so we want to make sure that we are providing you solutions to secure your organization, no matter how you work or which device and device management systems you have in use. So let's see what that means in more detail. Let's start with shared devices. This is the most common way devices are deployed for frontline workers because you're not giving each of the frontline workers a dedicated device. The frontline experience starts as soon as you open the device. With Microsoft Intune, IT admins can now customize the home screen on any Android device. They can add company branding, pin appropriate apps and websites, and set access restrictions appropriately. Most importantly, we know that signing into multiple apps in the device can be time-consuming and take time away from important work. With shared device mode, you now only need one login to log into the device, and that gives you single sign-on to each and every app, Microsoft 365 app in the system, or any other app that uses Entra. You don't even need to type the long domain name anymore. And when the frontline worker logs out from the device, all apps are logged out, and the data, personal data, is clean, so it's safe to hand over to the next user. Right? So with global sign-in, global sign-out, and targeted conditional access policies, IT admins can keep the device and its data secure. This feature is available now with Microsoft Intune on both iOS and Android. And we are super excited to expand the support to several third-party MDM providers, such as SOTI and 𝗦𝗲𝘀 for Android, and coming soon on iOS with Jamf, SOTI, and 𝗦𝗲𝘀. If you're considering shared desktops for your frontline workers, we have some good news for you as well. With Windows 365 Frontline's shared mode, now in public preview, you can provide secure cloud PCs for multiple users. Each user gets a personalized Windows experience, and the system resets automatically when they log off, again, making sure that the device is safe and secure for the next person and ready for the next person to use. Now, perhaps you're not using a shared device, and instead you want to use a personal device, or you want to empower your frontline workers to use their personal device for work. To address common concerns such as privacy, and more importantly, things like unpaid work and maintaining work-life boundaries, we have made it easy for IT admins to define specific working hours. This makes sure that the app can be used only during those allowed hours. Let's take an example of a frontline associate in sales who's using a personal device for work. When her shifts end, Teams notifications are muted so that we respect her personal time. If she tries to access Teams, let's say to access some customer list that was earlier shared in a chat, safeguards kick in. These safeguards can include, and can be managed by IT admins, they can include just sharing a warning message that mentions that she's off the clock, and potentially any work that she's doing will not accrue to pay, or they can entirely block the access, making sure that the content is available only when she is on shift. So if the access is fully restricted, she won't be able to see any Teams content unless she is clocked in again. And this ensures a clear separation between personal life and working time. Okay. Now, we've made it easy for you to deploy devices and ensure that the access management of devices is simpler and secure. But what about deployment? Zoe was talking earlier about how 80% of the workforce is frontline, or 4 out of 5 employees are frontline. Deploying Microsoft Teams at scale can certainly feel daunting for this workforce. So earlier this year, we had introduced a powerful tool that allows IT admins to group users by physical work locations using Entra attributes. This innovation allowed for an efficient team creation. Now, these are the teams that you can use to track schedules and tasks that we talked about earlier, share announcements, or provide location-specific updates. Looking back at Woodgrove, the national grocery chain, they'll likely have thousands of store locations. Using this tool, they can create these thousands of teams simply with a few clicks. While this automation has been a game changer for several of our customers, we recognize that it still had some gaps. specifically around outdated intra attributes and temporary staffing changes. So that's why starting this month in private preview, frontline managers can now have the ability to manually add or remove frontline workers from their team, overriding the automation from intra. So this update ensures that the teams are not only efficient, the deployment is not only efficient, but it's also highly adaptable, empowering your frontline managers to maintain accurate, up-to-date teams for every location. All the powerful features that you've seen today, along with the tools that you're already using and loving, are brought together in one unified platform, Microsoft 365. This platform is uniquely designed to meet the needs of your frontline workers, combining simplicity and scalability to meet the specific needs of your organization. So now, whether you're looking for boosting frontline productivity with AI, integrate third-party tools to simplify workflows, or foster seamless collaboration across your workforce, Microsoft 365 delivers solution that empowers your frontline. And at its foundation lies a strong commitment to security, protecting your data, and ensuring compliance every step along the way. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to Zoe.
Thank you. And I do want to end by just saying thank you to you all. A lot of you have been our customers either on Frontline or Office Work for a long time, and we're building with you. A lot of what we showed today is actually coming straight from your feedback to us around what you guys need and what you require in order for us to actually build the right tools for Frontline. And so these are just a few of the folks that we want to thank, but really it's everyone in this room, because we know that it's a partnership that will actually get us all together to build the right tools for our Frontline. And I just want to leave you all with, if you're hoping to learn more about Frontline and in general the resources that we have for you, please take a look. The team has put together a lot of different components like adoption and all the different technology we're launching. And definitely come and chat to us after this if you have any specific questions you want to ask, and in general, anything more that we can do. And tell us how we did. We would love to get feedback. We want to, as we continue to iterate on our product, we'll continue to also iterate what we do on stage when we talk to you all. So thank you again for your time. Happy Friday, and have safe flights home for those that are traveling outside Chicago. Thank you.